I don't support the man himself. I just liked his policies. That's the argument many MAGA supporters have always made. Maybe not the hardcore MAGA crowd, maybe not even MAGA at all, but those who wanted to back Donald Trump without openly acknowledging the uncomfortable truths, the racism, misogyny, and bigotry. They insisted it was all about the economy, about boosting financial growth. But where is that economic boom we were promised? What happened to the great policies that were supposed to take effect on day one? We were told prices would drop, lower costs for eggs, rent, and gas. Yet that hasn't happened, and now Donald Trump is finally facing the backlash he deserves, not just from Democrats and independents, but from Republicans as well. Even he seems to be admitting mistakes, especially to the people most upset with him, corporate leaders who once backed him. A leaked call reveals his growing concerns, and we're about to dive into it. Before we do, if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, it would mean a lot. Now, let's get into Trump's latest panic and how the rest of America is reacting.
How does the American people like all of this? How does the American population feel about how things are turning out with Donald Trump being back in the White House, given that this is sort of the daily news now? New polling from Gallup just out today shows that there is no issue on which the American people like what Trump is doing. His disapproval ratings are higher than his approval ratings on everything. He is 18 points underwater on his handling of the economy. He is 19 points underwater on his relations with Russia. He's underwater on his handling of the federal budget, on energy policy, on foreign affairs, on the Ukraine war, on the environment, on even his relations with the dreaded news media. He is underwater on every single thing. New polling in the great state of Texas today shows that Trump's favorability rating in Texas has dropped 15 points since the election in November. He is now underwater, specifically in Texas, and dropping like a stone. Today, Donald Trump pulled the nomination of Congresswoman Elise Stefanik to be his new ambassador to the United Nations. So congratulations to the United Nations. But Trump admitted the reason why he pulled her nomination. He said the reason he pulled her nomination is because they don't want her to leave her seat in the House, because the Republican majority is so thin. Now, if Elise Stefanik had left her seat in the House and become UN ambassador, which was the original plan, they would just hold an election to put somebody else in that seat, right? If another Republican was going to replace her in the House, of course, it wouldn't affect the size of their majority at all. But you want to know why they pulled that nomination today? They pulled that nomination today, clearly, because they were worried that another Republican would not replace Elise Stefanik. That if they had to hold an election for that seat, they were worried they were going to lose it, and that a Democrat was going to flip that seat. Elise Stefanik won that seat in November by 24 points. 24 points. Right now, with what Trump is doing as president, right now with how the Republicans are performing with Trump as president, right now, 24 points is not a comfortable enough margin for Republicans, given how hard the country is swinging back against them. 24 points in November looks like it might be a blue seat right about now. The real political leaders of this country are the people who are willing to get up in the morning and go do something. They're doing it. And in many ways,
Donald Trump's poll numbers are in free fall, and people are fed up with what might be the most ridiculous trade war in history. It's no surprise. Even Trump himself doesn't seem fully committed to it. One moment he claims economic liberation is coming on April 3rd. The next, he's making exceptions for certain tariffs. If tariffs were so effective, why not apply them across the board? Why not impose them reciprocally? If the goal is to revive American manufacturing, why not go all in with 100% tariffs on everything? The answer is clear. Trump knows they're deeply unpopular, and he realizes he's made a massive mistake. That's why he's scrambling, calling up CEOs in a panic, begging and pleading as he watches his economic strategy backfire. The economy is struggling, people are angry, and the blame is squarely on him. As we can see in this article right here, Trump accidentally wrecks his own tariff. Spin and leaks call ST in a call with auto CEOs. The president warned them against raising prices. Isn't that an admission that his argument for tariffs is bogus, faced with expert opinion predicting that his tariffs will jack up prices for American consumers? Donald Trump has carefully considered a wealth of advice surrounding this complex matter, and after extensive consultation with stakeholders on all sides, has concluded that his tariffs are a bad idea. After all, just kidding. Actually, Trump has decided to take another course, and irely stung by that expert opinion, he's now corruptly wielding executive power to warn the relevant companies that they'd better not raise prices after his tariffs go into effect. Or else, the Wall Street Journal reports that in a private call with CEOs of the nation's leading auto companies this month, the president warned them against hiking prices after the tariff said the White House will look unfavorably on them if they do. He darkly intimidated, leaving them worried about retribution. This is getting attention as another abuse of power, akin to the extortion of law firms, but it's notable for a different reason. It wrecks this spin Trump has offered on tariffs on many different levels, and it highlights a glaring absurdity about his economic agenda that continues to be overlooked. While Trump's stated goal of tariffs is to rebuild the nation's industrial base, he's gunning to reverse policies by his predecessor in a way that would kill large numbers of manufacturing jobs, including in the auto industry, simply because they would facilitate the transition to the green future this week. Trump announced that he's imposing a 25% tariff on all imported vehicle parts. Experts say this will raise auto prices by many thousands of dollars. Tariffs on imported vehicles are a tax on their consumption, and tariffs on parts will make it more expensive to manufacture vehicles here earlier this week. However, Trump declared that because his tariffs will cause an explosion of auto manufacturing here, you're gonna see prices go down. Trump knows that's false. He wouldn't warn companies this way if prices were set to drop. What critical is that he shows. He knows why his tariffs will raise prices. He knows they'll boost costs on those doing the importing buyers and on those making things with imported parts manufacturers. That wrecks his claim that other countries will pay the tariffs. And Trump also said the following to CEOs who might raise prices instead. Trump said they should be grateful for his elimination of what he called former President Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandate, which involves subsidies and emission requirements to encourage electric car production. What all this underscores is that there's no coherent conception of natural nature, national interest at work behind any of this. Trump's effort to eliminate Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandate is a reference to his January executive order that explicitly uses the phrase in it. Trump vows to pursue the elimination of unfair subsidies that favor EVs over other technologies, meaning government incentives that make EVs competitive relative to fossil fuel-powered vehicles. To that end, Trump is using executive authority to repeal Biden's regulation on tailpipe emissions and roll back loans and grants, and Biden's Inflation Reduction Act that incentivized the construction of manufacturing plants for EVs batteries and chargers. He is urging congressional Republicans to an IRA subsidies for EV purchases as well. Those provisions drive the transition to EVs on the supply side, tailpipe regulations push automakers to evolve, while investments spur manufacturing plants, and the demand side subsidies keep EVs affordable. Rolling all that back could lead to the cancellation of dozens of EV and battery factories and kill roughly 100,000 jobs, according to calculations by Princeton Repeat Project. While you might think EV manufacturing jobs simply replace traditional auto manufacturing work, Princeton professor Jesse Jenkins noted that China is aggressively cornering the global e-market, even as global consumers' tastes are trending toward EVs and the industry increasingly embraces self-driving vehicles, which Optimat are electric. Despite his claims to the contrary, Donald Trump knows the truth. His tariffs will drive up prices and hurt manufacturing. This has always been my biggest issue with his economic approach. If the MAGA argument is that tariffs may cause short-term pain but will ultimately revive American manufacturing, then why is Trump dismantling Biden-era policies designed to boost manufacturing? And why did we see a mass exodus of manufacturing jobs under his presidency? It just doesn't add up. There's no logical argument that justifies this contradiction, but that's MAGA, and this leaked call only further exposes Trump's desperation. He's not just pleading with CEOs, he's outright threatening them. But that's not the only damaging leak making waves this week. Over in Texas, more internal chaos is unfolding. Mark Telley didn't hold back, slamming Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Mike Waltz, J.D. Vance, and the rest of the so-called cast of cooks and crazies for their role in this political mess. Check out this clip right here.
What do you think as a former naval aviator yourself?
Who had to walk out to an airplane in the middle of the night to go on a strike like this when Dick Cheney was Secretary of Defense, I think. Never for 1 second did I think the Secretary of Defense was going to put me at risk. And it is significant risk. They're saying this wasn't classified. This is the most sensitive information we have in the military. When you're going to send service members, troops, pilots, feet dry in this case, over land in a contested area where they have a significant surface-to-air missile capability.
Yeah,
they have SA-3s, SA-6s.
Yeah.
I've had an SA-6 blow up next to my airplane on my first combat mission.
Wow.
That missile can shoot down an F-18 without a doubt. If they know you're coming, when you're coming, the direction you're coming from, and on top of that, the time on target, they know to have all their resources focused on shooting you down. And that helps them significantly. So, of course, these pilots are upset about it. Pete Hegseth put them at significant risk. He crossed a line no Secretary of Defense should ever cross, and he needs to be held accountable for this.
What do you make of the lying? I really find this part, in some ways, some of the most unnerving. I mean, to say it's not classified, it's like, well, the timing and of a surprise.
I'm not even sure what they mean by that. Maybe they meant because it doesn't say secret or top secret on the signal chain.
Right, but of course it is.
Of course it is. It came off of a piece of paper that probably said top secret at the top, or he got it over the phone from the head of CENTCOM, the combatant commander, that said, here's, and by the way, you look at the times, it wasn't around a certain time. It's like 15:16, 3:16 p.m., or 14:10, which is 2:10 p.m. These are exact times that came from a plan. Now they're saying, well, these aren't war plans. I'll give them that. I mean, a war plan would be joint forces.
Sure, yeah.
It would include allies. This is a strike plan. These plans, by the way, are also planned by those pilots that are in the cockpit. So they planned the strike.
Right.
They communicated it to leadership. It got approved. And then the Secretary of Defense decides to throw it out on an unsecured platform, which, by the way, could have gotten to the Russians, could have gotten to the Iranians, and ultimately to the
Incompetence. That's the defining trait of the Trump administration. It's everywhere, trickling down through every corner of the White House. But all we can do is call it out, point out the absurdity, and sometimes just laugh at it. If you enjoy that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And if you've made it this far, drop a heart in the comments. Until next time, see you soon.